welcome everyone. Let's call this meeting to order for the Township of Blissland on September 3rd, 2024. Welcome back from our summer break, if we had one. And I have no idea who goes first. You do, Councilor Spillis. Here?
Yes.
All right. Councilor Bailey.
I'm here.
We're all a little rusty. It's okay. Councilor
Present.
Hurst. And Councilor Goyda.
Present.
All right. Next is our moment of reflection. All right, that concludes our moment of reflection. Ms. White, why don't you have a confirmation of the agenda, please?
The council approves the September 3rd, 2024 agenda and addendum as circulated, and the council approves the addition to the agenda as follows. Consent item 6.1.5, questions received from council and the corresponding responses provided by staff.
Can you move for that, please? Councilor Hurst, Councilor Spillis, any questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. Next, any disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. I have one. It's in relation to item 14.3, and the general nature of the pecuniary interest is a former employee of the township. Anyone else have a pecuniary interest today? Nope. All right. All right, I believe we will be going into closed session. So if I have a resolution for that, please.
Council shall go into closed session under section 239 of the Municipal Act for the purpose of a confidential report regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. It's in relation to a township complaint protocol. A confidential report regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and that's in relation to municipal property. Confidential report regarding advice that's subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and that's in relation to a human resource matter. The confidential minutes from previous closed meetings, and a confidential report regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and it's regarding a proposed acquisition.
All right, can I get a mover for that, please? Councilor Hurst, Councilor Goyda,
Yep.
thank you. All in favor? Carried. Back everyone, Ms. White Fox, you have some resolutions for us coming out of close.
The council moves into open session at 2:06 p.m.
You gonna move for that, Councilor Spillis, Councilor Goyda?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. Next.
The council receives the confidential report regarding personal matters of an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. This is relation to township complaint policy. Confidential report regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose in relation to a municipal property. Confidential report regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and that's in relation to human resource matter. Confidential minutes from the previous closed meeting, and a confidential report regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and that's in relation to a proposed acquisition, and that staff proceed as directed.
As I declared on 14.3, does it have to be separate from this?
I've noted in the minutes that you
It's just,
refrained, but we can pull it out.
yeah, let's pull up 14.3. We'll do all of those except 14.3. Can I get a mover and a seconder for that? Councilor Hurst, Councilor Bailey, all in favor? Councilor Bailey, you want to do 14.3, please? Just ask for a mover and a
Yeah, I
seconder.
can read
Proceed.
it out. That council received the confidential report regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, and it's in relation to the township complaint protocol.
No, it's not that one.
No, he
It's
was.
human resource matter.
Just have you read it.
Sorry about that. It is the council received the confidential report regarding advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose, and it's in relation to human resource matter.
I'll make a mover for that. Councilor Hurst, seconded by Councilor Spillis. All in favor? That's carried.
Great. Thank you, Councilor Bailey. All right, next we're gonna move to 9.2.2. in the interest that one of our consultants is only available for a prescribed amount of time, council is comfortable with moving that item up?
Yep.
Assume so. Is this the same, you give us a synopsis, or you right to the?
You can see Neil, our consultant here, I'm just moving her over.
Excuse me.
Nancy's on the line.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Nancy.
So I can just start off by just summarizing the report that's in front of you and the process that was undertaken for the township's 2024 development charges background study and bylaw. So the report does discuss the process that was undertaken and the changes in the rates from from our current rates to the proposed rates under the new bylaw. There was a public information meeting and a special council meeting prior to the passing of this bylaw. And Nancy or I would welcome any of council's questions at this time.
Nancy. Is Nancy gonna need to speak about anything prior to opening up to council?
No, it's up to you at this point. If there's any final questions you have on implementation, I'd be happy to help answer those along with Mary.
All right, I think Councilor Schools, do we have a couple, or are you satisfied with the answers you received?
I'm generally satisfied with moving forward on this. What I'd like to do is, as part of the budget process, allocate some money to look at to see if we left any money on the table. In other words, use the study, try to do it this year, so that whatever this study data we have is still valid, as opposed to doing it 2 years from now. You got to redo the entire study.
Okay, so you'll bring that back with budget?
Just allocate some funds to just review that. There's some things that will happen over the course, perhaps this coming year, that we may want to include as well.
Okay. I'm not sure if I understand you entirely, but so what are you trying to capture? You know, development charges are on pace to what we're anticipating, or
I think we're underestimating development charges.
Okay. You comfortable with that, Ms. White?
So we're just wanting to bring back this discussion on the DCs at this budget cycle when we're looking at.
Just allocate funds as part of the budget cycle, to review the
DCs again?
not entire report, review the assumptions that we made to make sure we didn't leave any money on the table.
And does this need some simmering time? Like, is this so that they do the review near the end of 25 to give some?
No, I think we got to do it early in the year to use the same data.
Okay.
Otherwise, you got to reinvent the wheel 1 year later.
Yeah. Okay, we'll just, so,
If we just say if the DC charges are adequate versus leaving money on the table, just.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, to make sure the adequacy of the DC charges based on future plans.
Oh, Nancy did? Go
Sorry,
ahead,
yeah, I was just gonna suggest the same thing, just to use the word adequate. I think what the concern may be is that if something during budget time is identified that wasn't included in the study and there's room to include it, that the counselor would like the study re-looked at and potentially amended prior to the 1 year life of the background study to ensure that you could amend your bylaw in short order with, you know, less work than what would be required after that 1 year period to update a full background study.
Thank you for putting it so succinct.
Anything further, Councilor Swart?
Quick, thank you.
Councilor Bailey?
Yeah, I just have a question. It's a bit of a detail. In table B13, which is 290 of our package, if anyone wants it, talks about the Parks and Recreation Service amenities. And the, what did I write down? Parkland trails have increased since we've done our parks upgrade, but the numbers don't show that in the chart.
So the Parkland Trails, I believe, is on page 291 of the package. So it includes our 3 trails there, and it shows the increase.
So I don't see an increase. The Wayne Stokely Trail didn't increase. Telford Glen didn't increase. Fox Run didn't increase.
Yeah, these are the the linear meters of those trails that we had on file. The total increase from 270 to 720 to 1,120 over the from 2009 to 2023.
2023, okay, and we did the Lynch Community Center grounds. That'll be in 2024 then?
The Pleasant Community Grounds is in a lot of it is in 2024, but also in 2023. You'll see that on page 290 of your agenda package. It includes the intermediate soccer field and all the items at the grounds there, including the new picnic pavilions as well, and the senior soccer field.
Okay,
Those
good.
have been added for 2023.
I just want to make sure that was calculated in there. We did have a public response, or we had a response to our public engagement regarding farm buildings, and I'm just wondering if you can speak to sort of what the response is for that individual.
So Nancy, do you just want to summarize what the bylaw says regarding the farms and what types of farms are exempt?
Yeah, so right now the bylaw exempts bona fide farm uses. So if, for example, I was constructing a barn to hold my livestock or my crops or a silo, those would be exempt because that's part of a bona fide farm. What wouldn't be exempt is what we've defined as on-farm diversified uses. So if I was building a barn to rent out for banquet facilities such as weddings, that's a commercial business. And although it may be allowed on agricultural farm land, that's not a bona fide farm use. So those types of uses, same if I, was converting a barn or building something to, maybe I'm a mechanic and I'm going to do work on engines or transmissions or something like that. That again is a commercial business to build furniture in it, that sort of thing. That is not exempt because that actually falls under the commercial category. So it's true bona fide farming buildings that support the raising of crops and livestock that is exempt.
Great. Okay, thanks for that. I just wanted the resident to know that we'd actually, acknowledge the response that he sent in, or she. My last question is just, we did have a response regarding differentiating DCs between 4 or more bedrooms and 3 or less bedrooms. And the recommendation was that that's not a good idea and it can skew the septic system. More out of curiosity, what if the DC rates were categorized by bathrooms? What if you had 4+ bathrooms or 3 less bathrooms?
Yeah, when you get into differentiating the residential rates, we have to have some type of empirical data to do it on. So we do have from Statistics Canada, the average persons per unit in various types of units, single family homes, semi-detached, townhouses, etc. The size of a building or number of, or size of a house or number of bathrooms or even kitchens does not necessarily dictate the number of people that will be living in those units that will be using municipal services. So, you know, the size of a house, for example, same sort of thing. The larger the house, usually the more bathrooms you get. But that doesn't mean there's any more people in there using those and flushing those toilets at any given time. You could have a house that's smaller that has one bathroom and it's being used by 4 or 5 people that live in that house versus a larger house that has, you know, 3 bathrooms that only has 1 or 2 people living in it. So it doesn't necessarily dictate how much service is going to be used of municipal services. The other thing to keep in mind with the septic system is a lot of times when you start differentiating those low density rates, what happens is people try and say, well, this is it's not a 4-bedroom home, it's 3-bedroom plus a den. And you can easily put a wardrobe in a den and a door on it, and all of a sudden it's a 4th bedroom. And so you get into difficulties in administering that. As well, you would still need empirical data as to what are the average persons per unit in a 3-bedroom versus or less bedroom type or 4-bedroom or more. And as much as we have some of that data, there's not a huge differential in Puss Lynch for that. So you do have quite a few larger homes where there's actually less people in them than some of the smaller homes. So we looked at some of that data and it didn't quite make sense in your case with the historic data we have. So it just becomes more difficult when it comes to figuring out the size of a septic system. If you're going to have more washrooms or more people in there, and that's an engineering thing that I will pass to staff to explain more. But again, just because you have more bathrooms or a bigger house doesn't necessarily indicate more people living in that unit to tap into using your road systems and you know, your parks and recreation and other types of services that you're trying to recover for through the development charges.
Right, and I guess my approach was more coming at it from limiting the amount of McMansions. So if your DCs were higher, you might consider building a smaller house, if, you know, if you could keep it under a certain number of bathrooms.
Yeah, it doesn't tend to work that way. And then what happens is they'll build less bathrooms, but then they'll just add them after the fact as a renovation. And so
Thanks.
then you've missed it anyways, right? They've paid at the lower rate to start.
First,
Yeah, thanks. I think most of my questions have been touched on by my colleagues. I still think there's something to the differentiating above, say, 2,500 or 3,000 square feet, just to Councillor Bailey's comments, but maybe that's something you tackle in the future or upon an annual review that Councillor Sapoulis noted in it. And I'm glad we've noted the agricultural piece in the Q&A. So beyond that, I think I'm good with moving forward.
Councillor Goyda?
Yeah, just to build on both Councillor Bailey and Councillor Hurst's comments, I guess maybe the rationale or the reason that I was curious about the idea of establishing different DC rates based on maybe square footage as opposed to bedrooms or bathrooms or what it might be, is just because, I mean, in Puss Lynch, we're kind of a unique circumstance. We're rural, we have no city services. So it's very difficult for us to have, you know, your stereotypical affordable homes. And so in my mind, I was like, maybe this is the one thing at the municipal level that we can do to try and encourage smaller houses, which may not be the definition of affordable, but more affordable anyway than some of these giant mansions. And I don't know if there's other municipalities that you're aware of that do use DCs to encourage certain kinds of more affordable homes, even if they don't necessarily meet the definition of affordable or attainable home.
Yeah, through the mayor, there are a couple of municipalities that do have differentiated rates for low density. But again, they're usually based on the number of bedrooms in it, where we have empirical data that clearly says that in a, say, a 5-bedroom or more home or 4-bedroom or more home, there are definite historical data in those municipalities that say there's more people in those homes versus the smaller homes. When we pulled that data from you, for you guys, there really wasn't that much of a difference. And actually the 4+ bedroom homes sometimes had a lower person per unit than the smaller homes. So it just didn't seem to work for you guys. But there's very few, there are a few, but very few that do have historical data that does show there's definitely a difference in the number of people in those bigger homes than the smaller ones. And where there is that empirical data, we can differentiate that charge and have something to defend if we're ever appealed and taken to the OLT. If we're just, picking a square footage and saying above or below this, or based on number of bedrooms, we have nothing historical or even going forward in the future to be able to defend that at an appeal hearing, to say, this is why we've drawn the line here. And that's when it becomes really difficult to differentiate.
Just a follow-up question then is how do we gather the data of how many people are living in a house versus its size or back? Like, I guess what I'm asking is, moving forward, for our next round of our next DC study that we do, can we start gathering that data now to have that discussion at our next bylaw passing? And if so, how do we obtain that information?
Yeah, unfortunately, with Stats Canada, we don't get for every single household how many people are in each one. You may be able to, through your own records, figure out which homes have a certain number of bedrooms or bathrooms or are a certain size. But again, even a change of ownership can change a 3,000 square foot home from having 2 people in it to having 6 people in it. And at the time you're constructing a home, how do you know how many people? How do you know who the purchaser is going to be and how many people they may have in that unit? It becomes very difficult.
Okay, thanks. I'll skew on that a little bit. Thank you.
If we're gonna do this review, the possible for staff to look at the implications of and provide a graph of implementing the double lift asphalt for the replacement of our pavement roads, because it's in the report and it suggests that it would essentially really show that our asset management plan was underfunded. So I'd like to see what those actual numbers are. And then if that, because that could affect DCs too, we'd be charging more for DCs and may balance itself out. Also, is it possible, instead of saying all new or all replacement gravel roads, maybe we look at the policy of what our new paved roads are, and is it double lift or is it just thicker single lift? And that impact on the asset management plan as well when that report comes back. I kind of like the idea of square footage for development charges, but I'm hearing what you're saying is it's hard to make it defensible. So my layman's interpretation of people's houses when I drive by would go against what you're saying. I'm seeing more people in these large homes, so they would have more impact. But if we don't have some sort of data collection to back up what we're seeing boots on the ground, then that's problematic. So I guess I'm supportive of this, but also I just whispered to the CAO, was it through the census? I don't know when the last time they did a census. If there is data out there or being built to support that direction, I would also like to see that at the next DC review, not maybe in the short-term one, but the 5-year one. If not, if the council wants to address the size of the homes in the community. I'm wondering if, just a little off topic, but lot area coverage is a way to do that. We could reduce the amount of lot area that you're allowed to cover. And then up, but that's just to plant that seed with you. But is it the census that we figure out?
Typically, that's where we get the majority of the information from, because census does release data. And we actually, here at Watson, get special runs from them that give us a little bit more detail to give us those average persons per unit by number of bedrooms. And that's the empirical data we do use. Now, that's not to say that someone doesn't fill out the census properly and they're not reporting everybody that's living in the home, and you'll never get away from that. That's, and census tends to do a minor adjustment to every municipality to recognize that, where they may add, you know, somewhere between 3 and 4% over and above the population that does actually fill in the census, but there's always some minor nuances to that. But what they don't do is drill down to give us detail as to how many people are in each individual address and how big those homes are at each address, or how many bedrooms or bathrooms are in that. And that's where the difficulty becomes. And I often give my own personal example where I have, you know, 4 people in my unit. I have 1,000 square foot home. My sister-in-law lives not too far away, a few blocks away from me in a 3,000 square foot home, and she's by herself. We have 3 bedrooms, she has 4 bedrooms. So, like, you know, just because of the size of our house, she has more bathrooms, more bedrooms, it doesn't mean there's more people. And certainly my household uses municipal services much more than my sister-in-law's house does, because I've got 4 people that drive in there and are, you know, using the parks and recreation and all of the other services. So it's not always indicative when it comes to number of bedrooms or bathrooms as to how many people, or even the size, as to how many people live in a house.
Oh, I get it. All right, Ms. Whitefox, you want to read that lengthy resolution, please?
I do.
Super excited. aren't you?
That was FIN 2024-023 entitled 2024 Development Charges Background Study and Bylaw be received. And that the township's 2024 Development Charges Background Study dated June 24th, 2024 attached to Schedule A to the report be approved. And that council adopt the assumptions contained in the 2024 Development Charges Background Study in anticipation with respect to capital grants, subsidies, and other contributions. And that council adopt the approach to calculate the DCs on a uniform township-wide basis for all services and class of services. And the council approve the capital project listing set out in chapter 5 of the 2024 DC background study attached to Schedule A to the report, subject to further annual review during the budget process. And the council gives 3 readings to bylaw number 2024-053, being a bylaw to adopt the 2024 development charges and bylaw to be effective September 3rd, 2024. And that staff be directed to allocate funds to review the DC background studies during the 2025 budget in order to determine if the DC charges are adequate prior to the 1-year life of the background studies in accordance with legislation. And that staff provide information during the background study review regarding the impact on DCs should council construct double lift asphalt roads through its replacement schedule and its hard surfacing program to convert gravel roads to hard surface in accordance with the township's road management plan recommendations.
Perfect. Can you move on, please? Councilor Hurst, Councilor Willis. I think it's safe to say that in 5 years, when we review the DCs, we're not going to be under the gun and have to have a special meeting to meet the deadline. We're going to have a little bit more time to review this.
You can certainly plan it that way.
Thank you. Okay, no, that's good. So I move to seconder, right? All in favor? Carried. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Oh, your hand's up, Nancy.
Sorry, I just wanted to make it clear that this next bylaw can last up to 10 years. You don't have to renew it every 5 years now, so that actually might give you a little bit more time if you do want to start gathering some of that other information in-house to maybe differentiate a charge going forward.
No, we remember that it's good for 10 years, but I mean, for me, it'd be problematic if your DCs are undervalued because you've left it for 10 years, so. But
Absolutely.
that's, staff will keep their thumb on that for sure.
All right, thank you.
All right, anything else we need to do before we go back to the regular order of business, Ms. Whiteflies?
I don't think so. I think we're good. We just have staff reports, so no one
Don't
else
we,
waiting.
don't we consent?
We do, yes, but no one else on the line waiting
Okay.
to go.
Thinking of staff. Do consents, is there a lot of consents coming up?
Yeah, a couple.
All right. Do you need the resolution for consents first?
Yes, with the consent agenda items listed for the September 3rd, 2024 council meeting, we received for information.
Okay, move for that, Councillor Bailey, Councillor Hurst. All right, any items to be removed? Councillor Spruce.
So 6.2.
Yeah.
6.9, which is the same as 6.10 to 6.16.
Okay.
6.17.
Yep.
6.18.
Yeah.
And 6.27.
All right. You can read that, scratch. Councillor Bailey, do you have any?
None.
Councillor Hurst?
Councilors Pulis got the ones I flagged.
And Councillor, okay, so we're gonna receive the remainder of those. All in favor of that? That's carried. All right, the floor is yours, Councillor Spruce, 6.2.
6.2, this is the GRC Conservation Authority. There's two reports in there. Dash 57 and dash 64 talks about land parcels that the Conservation Authority might be giving up, and the 64 deals specifically with the Niska property at the southeast corner of Pioneer and Niska. So with respect to the 79 parcels, the report does not list them as public, but if there are any parcels in the township, we should have a look at it to determine if so, and then see if there's any interest in us purchasing those for our purpose. With respect to the Niska land holdings, the only comment I got is I personally believe that the southeast corner of Christmas and Niska will be turned over for development. And that may put pressure on our Pioneer Trail Road with the increased traffic. It's a gravel road there. So we may need to get our comments in early to whoever's going to be managing the redevelopment of that property to make sure that we're adequately looked after in terms of any wear and tear on the gravel road and any impacts to our neighboring residents.
I believe that the GRCA is requesting comments from essentially everyone on the liquidation of these lands, or maybe it's the Niska one in particular. I'm not sure our timeline, if we can Google that real quick, but I feel that for the reasons you're mentioning as well, and being an adjacent municipality, we should be commenting on those, but now we have time. Because there was a write-up in Gulf Today or one of those our online forums that there was a bird advocate that purchased the property, then opened it up for, people to do nature walks and things of that nature. So that was the intent of the property, and now it's going to be developed. Whether that's what we feel GRCA as a contributing member feels appropriate for that land, I don't know, but I think we should have that conversation if there's time.
So through Mr. Chair, are you looking at the option to provide council or township comments to the GRCA?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, and then there will be an opportunity when the property is developed because of our proximity, also like similar how we've done to some Guelph bordering properties where there's been development, to have our input as well.
I think we should have a conversation about whether we feel it's appropriate as a contributing member to GRCA, they're selling these lands off for development. And I don't even know where I fall there, but I feel it warrants, especially since they put it out there that they want comments. Unless the council doesn't want to comment ahead of that.
Well, I think it's important we do, Mr. Mayor. I don't know what the properties are. The report says that the locations were not made on public. But I think even if we have it and it's in a confidential part of our meeting, we'll discuss it. I think that's very important.
Yeah, so you can just look it up. If we missed the date, we can always comment to GRCA. I'm sure they'll receive them anyways, but. And then the second part of yours is just find out if there's any properties in Post Lunch that are also available.
Is it prior to the listing of the properties for sale? We want to make comments prior to the listing of properties for sale.
Well, it can be worded that way, but my understanding when I read the article, the GRCA has put out a request for feedback from the public, so we just want to participate in that process.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they didn't specifically just say, you know, neighbors to within X proximity as per se a planning application, they just said, we're interested in everyone's, so, okay. That makes sense?
Yeah.
And then the second part is just see if there are any lands that they are looking at, selling.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want to read that out or?
Right, that consent agenda item 6.2 listed for the September 3rd agenda meeting, you received information and the staff confirmed with the GRCA that there is an opportunity for the township to make comments in respect to this consent item, and the staff be directed to obtain a listing of any properties from the GRCA to be kept confidential for Central Council to consider.
Okay, can we move that, Mr. Spillis, Mr. Bailey, all in favor? Great, all right, 6.9.
6.9 is our campaign to recognize the physician shortage in Ontario. I'm sure our residents, some of our residents do not have a physician. And there's a motion and attached to Appendix A of 6.9. And it's a joint AMO OMA resolution. And I'd like to recommend that we have staff tailor it to our specific township, and if need be, I don't think it is, I think it's generic enough, and move it on.
All right, I'll take that as moved. Any seconder, Councilor Hurst. Any concerns from staff on tailoring that? No. Any questions or comments from the remainder of council? I will say I saw, I believe on Facebook, that the Rockwood doctor's office is accepting patients, so that was a day ago. Maybe full, but if you're, anybody watching, if you're looking for a doctor, there might be a spot in Rockwood. But support with that, so all in favor of that one? It's carried.
Okay, 6.17, Mr. Mayor, is the Municipal Engineer Association letter to Ontario municipalities regarding the Ontario public standards. These are commonly known as OPS. Their standards used across all municipalities, and my question is, do our consultants use this particular set of standards for civil works?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we were able to connect with our township engineer prior to the meeting. And he does say that the OPS are referenced as part of the township's development standards as applicable. So this is something that is incorporated.
Great, thank you.
So nothing further on that one? No. So we need just to receive it for information, moved by you, Councilor Goyles, seconded that one to receive it for information. Sure. All right, all in favor? Carried. All right, Councilor Wilson,
It's a letter from the Associate Minister Jones regarding opportunities to modernize Emergency Management and Civil Protection Act. Comments were due at the end of August, and I'm wondering what the county said on behalf of the us type of thing, being a municipality of the county.
So through you, Mr. Chair, we did reach out to the county emergency management team, and we'll include whatever response they provide back to us in one of our reporting back staff reports.
That's great, thank you.
to just receive that one for information. Moved by Councilor Spo, second Councilor Bailey, all in favor? Carried. And last one.
Okay, last one is City of Quinte West. This is asking the federal government to increase funding for municipal works. They have a fund in place now, but they're also winding down the other, I forgot the name of the actual fund, it's called the Building Canada Fund, if I'm not mistaken. It's winding down, and there'll be a shortfall of, it's the kind of infrastructure program is coming to an end. And the city of Quinte is recognizing this coming to an end, which means less money going out to municipalities. And I posed a question, and staff say, yes, we do have a similar concern, and they would recommend we support the resolution by City of Quinte West Council.
All right, so that's moved by Councillor Spose, seconded by Councillor Goya. Any questions or comments on that? All good, I think we should add MP Michael, this is the federal level of funding, correct? Just add MP Michael Challen to circulate this resolution of support for Quinte West, please. All in favor of that? That's carried. I believe that's the last few items. So we don't have nominations, we don't have any public meetings, special fire, we don't have anything. Unless you have anything you want to add there, chief? No, we're good. And I believe we're on 9.2.1, rural economic development program agreement. Let me get the right spot. Sorry. Who's doing that one? Mary, go ahead, Mary.
Okay, perfect. So this is just a great funding announcement that we recently received regarding some work that we're able to do around economic development and have it funded by the province and the County of Wellington. I'd be happy to answer any of council's questions on the report.
Are you gonna move for that, or do you want to read the resolution first? Yeah, I'll read the resolution.
The report FIN 2024-022 entitled the Rural Economic Development Program Execution of Agreement be received, and the council gave 3 readings to bylaw number 2024-052, being a bylaw authorizing the entering into an agreement with the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness for the Rural Economic Development Program for revitalizing the downtowns in Aberfoyle and Morriston.
All right, you're gonna move for that, please. Councilor Spose, Councilor Goya, any questions or comments for Mrs. Sand? No. All in favor? That's carried. Right, next we have 9.3.1, so the noise bylaw exemption request. Who wants to speak to that? Let's still try.
I will through you, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
The purpose of the support is to provide council with a request for a noise bylaw exemption. It's for a special event taking place on Saturday, September the 14th into September the 15th. The request is looking for relief to permit instrument human noise from 11 p.m. till 2 a.m. the following morning.
The report ADM 2024-039 entitled Noise Bylaw Exemption Request for 7646 Wellington Road 34 be received, and that council either approve or deny the request for relief from Noise Bylaw 6001-24 for the property to permit instruments human noise from 2200 hours on Saturday, September 14th to 200 hours on Sunday, September 15th, 2024.
Right, can you move for that, please? Councilor Bailey, Councilor Hurst, a second. Questions or comments? Okay. Did you want Hurst to what was the name?
Switch the gallery.
Okay, all in favor?
I think it's we're looking for approve or deny. I sort of left it
Yeah,
open ended
sorry.
there. That's okay.
Yeah, so we're looking to approve it, so is anybody opposed to approving this? Okay, all in favor? That's carried.
I just want to make a general comment. I think this is the way to do it. I was wondering if the township staff are planning to do something to reach out to public, given the fact that some people are doing this without proper process.
Thank you. So through Mr. Chair, yes, township staff have been in discussion around increasing community education and engagement on the various regulatory bylaws and also just some of our policies that are not yet bylaws. Around special events and sort of some of the activities that happen at special events to make sure that people are in compliance. We don't want to see anybody, you know, enforcement undo if they simply didn't know we had a certain bylaw and that sort of thing. So we're gonna be focusing on some education through social medias, outlets, as well as education through visiting property owners where there has been an infraction.
Follow-up question, you typically sometimes produce a newsletter, goes out, the tax, not be included as part of that?
Yeah, certainly staff can take a look at, see if there's a right way to include that in that newsletter.
Probably late to the party, but it says here that we're requesting the applicant to notify anybody within the prescribed distance, right? So now that we've approved it and they notify everybody and then they're all opposed, what's gonna happen then?
So through you, Mr. Chair, I don't think that it was set up for the public to necessarily have input into the approval. It's not that sort of appeal process that we have in other bylaws. We really want to keep it streamlined through staff and council, but also to your point, make sure that the public is aware that it's taking place.
So it won't change the approval, there won't be a reconsideration from the council, it's more just, hey, here's the party, it's coming, it's from this time to this time, and that's it. Okay.
Through you, Mr. Chair, it also cuts down on the complaints made to the township. You know, if someone doesn't know something's happening, they may complain. If they're made aware of it, they expect it to happen and the complaints don't necessarily come in.
So, all right, do we vote on that? We're good. All right, next we're on to 9.3.2. Ms. Brotherson.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the purpose of this report is to provide council with the suggested amendment to the township's radio communication tower and antenna protocol policy. The suggested amendment is just to address that the township has now repealed its mandatory pre-consultation bylaw in accordance with Bill 185. And this policy did reference that bylaw, so we're just suggesting some amended wording to take that process from that pre-consultation bylaw and formally include it in this policy.
Okay, the resolution.
The council receives report ADM 2024-040 regarding the proposed radio communication tower and antenna protocol policy amendment, and that council approve the amendments as presented.
Megan, move in front, please. Councillor Hurst, Councillor Willis, any questions or comments? All in favor? Great. 9.3.3 heritage designation update.
So the purpose of this report is to seek authorization from council for pre-budget approval for unanticipated costs relating to the registration of 2024 priority properties on title should council choose to designate those properties, as well as registration costs and peer review costs for 2025 priority properties in order to proceed with the heritage designation process for both 2024 and 2025 priority properties as recommended by the Heritage Advisory Committee.
All right, what she said, anybody move it, please? Councillor Hurst, Councillor Willis, questions?
Question, do we have any, these residents already saying they don't want the property designated?
Through you, Mr. Chair, with respect to the 2024 properties, we have not had any property owners outright say that they're going to oppose this process. We have had some questions and we've had some discussions. With respect to 2025 properties, we haven't started that consultation yet because part of what we're doing today is seeking council's endorsement to proceed with that process. And the first step would be letting those property owners know that they're priority property. But with respect to the 2024, we don't have anyone who's indicated so far that they're going to object.
Okay.
Yeah, just a question. I actually went through trying on Google Maps to try to look at the different buildings. So number 7 on the list doesn't appear to be a historic building. And number 24 has had extensive renovations, I'm presuming since being on the registry. So I'm just wondering how that's handled for designation processes. If it doesn't appear to be a heritage building anymore, or if all the aspects have sort of changed on it, will they be dropped from this list, or do we still sort of go through the process?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the purpose for the 2025 at this point is to let them know, as indicated, that they're identified as a priority property, try to set up site visits so that we can go and assess what is still there, cannot be there, what should be included in the bylaw? And then the committee will make recommendations on, what one should be brought forward to council again, but this is just kind of preliminary based on what's on our register, and kind of background research into what property we should look at next.
That's kind of a filter process there. And then I think another member of council actually worded it much better than I did in my little notes here, but my understanding with the Heritage Financial Incentive Program discretionary reserve is that it was going to essentially be for property owners that eventually, once we get the reserve kind of at a higher level, they could tap into it and use it towards some sort of renovations and things on their property. So I'm not sure which other council member had noted this, but I'm just wondering if there's another funding option for the peer review costs other than using that reserve.
So I can just speak to that. So the other option, I believe it's for the 2,600, is to utilize the legal contingency discretionary reserve or to offset from a potential 2024 operating budget surplus.
This was for the peer reviewing,
Yeah.
the $2,600.
Yeah. So either hope for a surplus and take it out of that, or the legal contingency reserve, which that sucker's taking a hit from all the mayor's complaints about aggregate. Did I say that?
So I don't know if I want to support that part of the resolution.
So
is
where-
I'm going with that, but I don't know what an option would be. So I'd like to authorize pre-budget approval in the amount of 2,600 to come from somewhere else.
So those are your options. You can either try to put it to, so what you could do is say, leave it as a pre-budget approval, the amount of 2,600 be funded from the Heritage Financial Incentive Program or the budget surplus. I would stay away from the legal contingency reserve because that thing has been,
Question.
sure.
So through Mr. Chair, what we could also do is, given that this is a pre-budget approval, so that we can get started, we can also look at topping up the Heritage Financial Incentive reserve come 2025 budget, knowing that we've withdrawn some funds, maybe we need to top that back up. That could be an option where we're not necessarily utilizing another reserve, but we're simply topping it back up through the next budget cycle.
Okay, and I had made note that I wanted to try to keep that at 10,000, thinking we would do kind of a 5,000 contribution each year, so that goes along with.
7,600 would be the amount if you wanted to top it back up.
It'd be 2,600 because you're only taking out 2,600.
But with the additional 5,000 that you wanted to
Oh,
put
right.
in, just making
to
that
grow. Yeah, yeah.
contribution, yeah.
Of 7, sorry, what'd you say?
It was 7,600.
So maybe I'm making that suggestion today.
Well, I think she's gonna record that they're going to look at all those three options.
okay.
Either way, at least it can get done.
All right, that'll be.
I have a grenade to throw in her too, so I just want to make sure.
So through Mr. Chair, just in terms of determining where that funding is coming from, do we want to say the Heritage Financial Incentive Discretionary Reserve and then to be like recompensated through the 2025 budget? I think because it is pre-budget approval, staff are looking for some direction today on
Yeah,
that.
I think you can have all the options there. You can give the pre-budget approval, so that way it's in regardless.
Okay,
Then the other one is and or budget surplus. Well, if we don't have a surplus, that can't fund it clearly, but it gives an option. And then also have on there that staff as part of the 25 budget incorporate replenishing the reserve. But if you don't use the reserve, you don't have to replenish the 76, you just go back to the 5.
Yeah.
So it just gives you 3 or 4 options, just to make sure you can move forward with the peer review, and essentially we'll hear in the budget discussions where that 2,600 eventually comes from. Does that make sense?
I'm going to provide some options here then in the resolution, just so that I'm covering it all up.
Are you done?
Yes, I'm going to keep typing, please go ahead, yeah.
Okay, Councilor Bailey, is that
That's all I've had, thanks.
Councilor Hurst?
I'm good.
Councilor Blair?
Yeah, I thank you, Councilor Bailey, for bringing that up. That was the point I was trying to make, is that my thought when we set up that reserve was to be able to incentivize those who become designated property owners to maintain and restore those historical and heritage features of their homes. So it would be good to see that reserve grow instead of deplete. So I'm okay with however we're wording it, to be funded as long as that reserve is replenished, if it has to be used.
Mr. Mayor, we can still take it out of legal contingency, just top up legal contingency, it's not a big deal, it's one way or the other, take it out of one part and replenish it, so it doesn't matter.
Same school of thought, leave it in the heritage fund, because then it's still a
that's
heritage to
fine.
heritage.
That's
like,
fine. That makes
we'll-
sense, yeah.
we'll continue to- I'm,
Doesn't
You know,
really matter, as long as it's.
but they have three, worst case scenario, it comes out of the, if, you know, budget's tough one, you know, it has to come out of the reserve and be part, but it's not gonna happen, we're gonna have surplus or we're gonna have other opportunities, so. I just wanted it to be approved so they could go ahead with a peer review versus waiting for a surplus number, right? Okay. My grenade is, and I maybe should know this, do we have a tax stabilization reserve or something similar? In the township, in the county, they have tax stabilization reserve, and a project like this would be an ideal candidate for it because it's a one-time base budget increase. So, anytime you use a tax stabilization, it's basically offsetting an increase, so. Not too complicated. Do we have tax stabilization reserve? No.
Not at this time, no.
Okay, that was, because that's where I would have suggested 13,910 come out of, because it's a one-time costing for all these properties and you could just pay it. My question would be also is, if this is a base budget increase of basically 14,000 after next year, because we won't have that same expense, where will that 14,000 go? It'll just be absorbed into the operating budget.
Heritage designation.
Well, after this, so it's 25's budget. Some of that 13,910 could be designated into the heritage reserve. So just councilors, keep that in mind.
But I don't think all the properties will be done after 2025. There will still be more. in 2025.
It won't be done till 2027.
Okay, so 2028 when we're here. I just see these little base budget increases, and they get gobbled up into other things and just becoming a little more astute, so. Okay, no, that's fine. So what do you have, Patrick?
So I've provided the sort of three options for staff to fund. That was the only amendment I've made. Otherwise, it's a very lengthy resolution. If you'd like me to read it,
No,
okay. But there's been no revisions to the resolution as presented in the report, except for outlining those three funding
can
options.
you just read those three, because
Yep.
I'm worried I confused the
Nope.
numbers.
The council authorized pre-budget approval in the amount of $2,600 to be funded from the 2024 surplus where possible, or the Heritage Financial Incentive Program discretionary reserve to be refunded in 2025 accordingly, or the legal contingency reserve also to be refunded in 2025 accordingly, for peer reviews of the statements of heritage, cultural value, and or interest for the 2025 priority properties.
We have a mover for that, please. Counselor Hurst has to, it's heritage. He's the mover, seconder, Counselor Bailey. Questions or comments on that? All in favor? Right, that's carried. Heritage, 9.3.4. It's you, isn't it?
And likely yourself as well, Mayor Dooley. This is our update on our AMO 2024 conference delegation summary. So this is a report that just outlines for council's recollection what the township applied for delegations at the AMO conference. So it outlines just the details there for council as well as for the public's information. It also talks about the delegations that were approved and sort of just a brief summary of what occurred during those delegations and if any sort of progress on our issues took place. And then just attached to that report are the three presentations that were provided to and sort of reviewed at the AMO conference. And I'm happy to answer any questions directed to myself or Mayor Sealy.
We also, Courtney and I and everybody attended for TAPMO. We had, who did we have? We had MNRF, then we had Green Party. And we had for TAPMO.
Oh, sorry, for TAPMO, yes.
MNRF went well. We highlighted, as we mentioned, illegal uses within the ARA. They mentioned that we should resubmit when we got to the postage component, which was the 10 minutes after, resubmit our complaints and highlight them. And so I think we're going to do that, but I feel like we were heard, hoping for some follow-ups. Minister Smith agreed to meet with myself outside of AMO, so I've sent an email to, I forget his title, is he the senior stakeholder?
Yeah, he was a staffer, senior staffer.
So it's not me.
Bring him a pen that
Oh.
doesn't click.
Oh, yeah. And so I reached out to Kyle and said I want to have some of those meetings. Green Party, we met with them, representatives from TAPMO around the protection of prime farmland. And apparently Senator Black is initiating some sort of committee or wanting to get some protections in place. Green Party, I said TAPMO wants to be a part of that. And what that will end up being, I don't know right now, but there's a lot of pressure on prime farmland from development. So my line is, we need infrastructure, we need all these other things, but if we can't feed people, we don't need any of it. So losing all this prime farmland is problematic. So I think there's some momentum behind this, and I'll keep you posted. So I should put in my phone. MPP Schreiner already set up an introductory email with whoever he wants to lead this charge on protecting the prime farmland. We're gonna be setting a date soon, so. What do you want to add from MTO? Anything, MNRF?
The MTO delegation, I feel, was very positive. As outlined in the staff report, there were some commitments made to start some of the hydro line work, which is, I think, huge for sort of working towards commitment to get the bypass on schedule or a timeline for that. So that was great news. The MTO also didn't commit to anything, but they are going to consider our request when we finish our study that we just received our Red Grant funding for, to look at some cost sharing opportunities for the deliverables of that. So I think that was very positive to come from the MTO over those things.
We forgot something, and you're gonna remember as soon as I say it. When we had our pre-meeting to the delegation with staff down from London, they mentioned that we should get some video to show the impacts of the traffic around the area. And I called Courtney after the delegations one of these times. I was driving around thinking, and I said, can we get a drone? It was Friday, it was a zoo. 401 was backed up, there was traffic down Brock, down Morris, it was crazy everywhere. I said, can we bring it to council to get a drone, somebody to fly this and record it? Because I was thinking of just driving around with my camera on a stick next to me, and try to capture some video. And I thought, well, the drone would do it. And we had some discussions with staff doing it. I was concerned with staff flying a drone over a major provincial highway. But then this White Fox, you mentioned something about some budgetary money we had. I'll turn it over to you. So
Yes, thank you to you, Mayor Sealy, and thank you for the reminder. We, as council recalls, we had put money in the budget to do drone imagery of concession 2 and the aggregate pits. It was sort of in consultation with our gravel study that we have underway. The consultant that's doing the gravel study has let me know that they actually went ahead with some helicopter footage that they're doing as part of a bigger project for Wellington County. So that's done. So there's no need for us to spend money on a drone project. However, we had reached out to a company that does that drone work, and so we have that contact, so we could sort of shift what they're doing and maybe have them look at this aerial work over the bypass area there to demonstrate the issues that happen.
So the thought is, because the feedback from the MTO staff was that, obviously pictures and video are more impactful than us going and saying, oh, the traffic's terrible, so many times a year now. Is have staff contact get permission from council to use that money for this bypass drone footage, but also find out if they're able to kind of come out at short notice. The last thing we need is the whole area working properly. If we want to show it when it's at its worst and how often, or even at least a couple examples, and I don't know if that's even possible from this company, but at least, well, there's enough opportunities, but I could be driving around and say, hey, today's a good day if you can come out and fly the drone. So I'm just wondering if council has the appetite to shift that money towards the bypass video footage from the aggregate site review. So.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm sure, I think we had some money in the Morrison bypass called hotspots type of thing, so we can consider this as part of that. We need to look for.
I think we have $2,500 for the drone project, so if it does go beyond that, then.
Sounds good.
Yes, I think that's well within the priority area.
From that.
I'm capturing just that we're gonna reallocate those funds in the 2024 budget to capture footage of the Highway 6 bypass area to demonstrate the traffic congestion and safety issues.
You have to say, like, from Campbellville Road to town line, like, do we need to set any parameters?
We can do that with the consultant. Yeah, I think that's fair.
I believe they're putting a camera up at the Halen overpass. I see it. Is that what it is? I thought it was. So they're gonna have footage of how far it was backed up. So they're still doing the RFP for the traffic counts for our asks on the crosswalks, and so we're waiting on that. Anyways, it was a good meeting with them. Hopefully we see some actual action on the ground and looking for the traffic counters, but
Sorry, just as a follow-up to that, I don't know, I don't really know if this would be drone footage or just on the ground footage, but it just made me think of when we did that tour for the Your Town Rising, how, like, the impact of the sound of the traffic, which is hard to kind of convey that as well. So I don't know if maybe as part of that. If
we do
the,
that with ours.
Yeah, so through Mr. Chair, we had discussed that as well. I think it's important to be on the road, like as you say, capturing, trying to hear.
but maybe that's something we can do internally.
For sure. And it was something actually suggested by the staffers of the MTO as well, to be on the ground getting video footage. The impact of that is different than the overhead, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, councilors.
Just a question. Who is that AMO on behalf of the township? That was obviously yourself. Did we bring staff?
Ms. White Fox, Ms. Brotherston, were there in the official and Mr. Bailey.
Okay, well, it's good. I think it's important for this township to have a presence at those places, so just curious.
I mean, Ted Arnett sat in on, how many? 3, I think, yeah. Delegations.
Good.
One thing I will, this might make you nervous for me to say this, but I'm gonna do it. We attended the OSSGA reception, and upon entering, there was a tripod set up. And they were grabbing elected officials and bringing them in front of the camera and videoing them and asking them, how important is Agri to your community? And they were being recorded. And I found that very concerning, that I felt it was inappropriate and taking advantage of people that maybe didn't know what that was going to be used for. So I brought it up with the director of OSSGA, and he said if he received a complaint, that he would take it down. I assume me speaking to him wasn't considered a complaint, so eventually somebody complained, they took it down, so. I'm only bringing it up because as elected officials, I think everyone on this table is well aware that, you know, what you say to a camera can be used for certain things, but it was very surprising to me to see these elected officials go in front of that camera. And disappointing, but I also I asked a couple of them, why are you here? Oh, I got an invite. And they just sent them a blanket invite. So we're having discussions about maybe Tapmo hosting a similar kind of reception at an appropriate time at the conference to get more elected officials in to expose them to our messaging versus just being one-sided. So, but anyways, be careful when you get in front of a camera, please, if you ever find yourself in that situation. It's very disappointing to myself, so. That wasn't so bad, was it? Okay.
Two questions on the report. First of all, the liquid soils depots. There's an action here that you're gonna get a future meeting with them. Did you gather that they were receptive to your concerns?
So through Mr. Chair, MPP are not reached out on our behalf a few times. I do see that he's reached out again and we did receive a response. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up here. It's not a positive response. Let's see if I can find this. So they've outlined that the technical review of the ECA application is, and sorry, this is around the liquid soil depot, specifically to Portland, not the general legislation. That the technical review of the application is currently ongoing and is expected to be completed by the week of September 9th. Once concluded, the ministry will post a decision, so that's their normal process. The concerning part is that the ministry has taken our comments into consideration during the technical review. They are looking at addressing groundwater quality concerns through the installation of low permeability construction features to keep the process water on site until it's been tested or transported off site. And while municipal zoning of a site is a factor that can be considered by the ministry, it does not prevent the ministry signing director from making a decision on the ECA application.
The director or the minister?
The ministry signing director,
Who's that?
right? So I think what's disappointing is that local zoning perhaps has less of a impact on their decision on an ECA than maybe is appropriate. So I think this is just perhaps bolstering the need for the enforcement measures that the township is currently undertaking.
So in saying that, I think we need to contact the minister and say that the zoning is not in place, it's not supported by the township. Because if this is gonna be a director that's approving this, that's problematic.
And I will say through Mr. Chair that all of our correspondence has been to the minister directly and the minister's office has been responding to us. So they are well aware.
Ted Arner's been copied in on those.
Ted Arnett's been spearheading this on our behalf.
Great.
I still think this warrants a response. Whether, yeah.
Sure, I think I'd make a motion that we respond to this email directly to the minister. We have great concerns with our township bylaws being ignored.
We are not supportive of this operation within this zone. This is operating illegally, and can you pen something?
Care better drinking water.
Yes, so through Mr. Chair, this came in just late last week. So I haven't had a chance to fully review it and, but staff will be responding, just sort of in that chain that we've been going back and forth. And I think this should be a big part of the discussions of our discussions with the MECP if they agree to meet with us, that this aspect of things is not right. If there's no local zoning and it's a requirement for an ECA to have local zoning, how can it be sort of arbitrarily dismissed by a director when looking at an ECA application?
We need to ask Ted Arnett for a meeting ahead of September 9th with either the minister or whoever's representing her, which I believe she had a personal not issue, but may not be working And discuss this ahead of them making the decision September 9th. That's only 6 days away. So the review's gonna be done by September 9th?
The technical review is to be completed by September 9th. And then once concluded, the ministry will post the decision on the ERO.
We need to, I think we need to ask Ted to demand a meeting with.
I can follow up with MPPR not and see if we can help facilitate that before September 9th.
The second question I had with respect to the Morrison bypass, one of the items that we were considering is to request a traffic signal at concession 1/Leslie. And how is that?
RFPs out for the traffic count, that's gonna run.
Well, that's what you were talking about.
Yeah.
traffic counts, gotcha.
They wanna do all the traffic counts first. I'm a little disappointed that it was taking as long as it is, but maybe they have budgetary constraints, I'm not sure, right? So,
You can fly a drone there too, and you can see all the backup through there.
but that's what's holding everything up, is they wanna do the traffic counts, cause they were outdated. That's my understanding.
So
Any other questions? No, all right, so what's the resolution?
It's to receive for information, then the council directs staff to capture the drone footage of the Highway 6 bypass area to demonstrate the traffic congestion and safety issues by utilizing the funding allocated in the 2024 budget.
To follow up with Ted, or is that just?
I think that'll be, I can take that away. It's such a already on my action list.
Move for that, please, Councilor Goda, second Councilor Lewis, all in favor? That's carried. And building, roads and parks, recreation, none. There's any correspondence, is there? Correspondence, council reports, mayor update. Tamil with Kenda Hart from the county, as we've been meeting with MOF and OSSGA all summer long. I don't know if I've already mentioned this, but as part of the aggregate appeals, there's a big push from even the ministry to stop the swings of aggregate assessment. So we were meeting all year. They asked for ways that we could stop these swings, and we came up with the create a separate property tax class. We said give them a subsidy on a provincial dime. So the MOF is creating a property tax class for aggregate operations. And like I said, we've been meeting all summer. I've lost track. When's our next meeting? We're gonna have one in the next week or so. What we're aiming for is a simplified version. I feel that OSSGA from their side wants more reliance on self-reporting, and my standard message is that was problematic from 2016 on. We have evidence in the assessment review board hearing that it was falsified, that we don't want self-reporting. We want a tax class is a tax class is a tax class, and it's all in. It's in the license boundary, it's all in. We did make some concessions and say that we're not interested in taxing wetlands and forested areas. I'm not a tax expert, but they may be able to make some, exclusions for that. But, we're being realistic that Tamil isn't interested in taxing forest at the industrial rate, but we don't want the industry out there with a tape measure measuring things because the historical accuracy has not been up to snuff. So we continue to meet. MOF wants to have that tax class in place by 2025. They did provide the industry a subsidy by reducing their education component of their tax bill by 95%. This was something that Tamil proposed as a mitigation effort because it wouldn't be on a municipal side of things, which is a win. As an Ontario taxpayer, I maybe have concerns around that, but they didn't straddle the municipalities with the burden of that rebate. So that's good. Also, as chair of Tamil, I received an invitation from, I don't remember the name of it, but it's a committee that received funding from, I believe the feds, don't quote me on that part, but Ontario government, and they're going to create standardized rehab for the aggregate industry. And so I suggested a local operator representative be on that. It's Kevin Mitchell. He actually presented at TAMO, did a great job on rehab. He's a very passionate individual about it. I use the analogy that the rehab required through the ARA is like the building code, a minimum standard. And you can go higher. And for the most part, I feel Dufferin has done above and beyond the minimum standard. So that he'd be a good individual. So he was invited, OSSGA. We're gonna start a meeting in September. I believe it's the end of September, maybe the 23rd rings a bell. I got a lot of meetings coming up, but I thought it was, so I had to take that to the TAMO committee. They reached out to me directly. I said, well, I'd love to participate, but I need to get the blessing from the executive. So it's myself, Peter, I was gonna say me, but it's not me. Peter from Oro Medante, deputy mayor up there, and Katie Grigg, who is deputy mayor of Zora. The three of us are going to be on this committee helping to develop these standards for rehab for the aggregate industry. That's a good fit. We're below the water table. I believe Zora is about 50-50, and I think Peter's from a community that has above the water table, primarily extraction. So that will keep us busy. TAMO meeting went very well. Corey did a great job, along with the delegation, spoke very well to them. Not a lot of attendance, but it was still good. Kevin did a great job. Don was there, our new executive director. So he's finishing up his role as CEO of Zora probably this month, but he's already started to work with TAMO. He's working with Courtney to kind of figure out each other's roles, but other than that, anything else we should add about TAMO? That's all I have. Oh, Fall Fair is this weekend. That could be under announcements, I guess. Anything else from? That's all I have, but the tax class is coming, which is good. There's some stability.
Through Mr. Chair, the only other thing, it didn't happen at the TAPMO or the EMO conference, but there was that announcement. I think it's the Minister of Energy. I had let you know that they had committed to not putting grounded solar panels on prime agricultural land to protect prime agricultural land. And so Mayor Sealy had mentioned that might be a good jumping off point if you're not going to allow a solar panel because of the need to maintain prime land. Allowing aggregate extraction on prime land seems like a no-brainer.
So we're gonna start working those angles. There's a few irons in the fire that I think support the protecting the prime agricultural farmland from reach below the water table extraction. There may be an argument that above the water table it could be rehabbed, but I'd have to see that report and those third-party reviews to prove that. But yeah, it's all good. Any questions? So we're gonna move in a second to receive my update. Councilor Hurst, Councilor Spillis. All in favor, any members here that have any updates? That's good. Well, that's not good. Oh, not yet. It's bylaws first.
Yes, so the following bylaws be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2024-048 being a bylaw to appoint Tracy McQueen to the Recreation Advisory Committee. Bylaw 2024-052 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into an agreement with the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Agribusiness for the Rural Economic Development Program for revitalizing the downtowns in Aberfoyle and Morriston. And bylaw 2024-035 being a bylaw to establish development charges for the corporation of the Township of West Lynch.
Any member for that, please? Councilor Hurst, Councilor Spillis, all in favor? That's carried. Announcements.
I have an announcement.
Give her.
The Badna barbecue is happening on Saturday, September 14th. So it's the weekend after Fall Fair. It's kind of a community potluck. Anyone wants tickets, come and see me.
Excellent. Okay. Fall Fairs this weekend, Antique Tractor Pull Friday. I mentioned to the Fall Fair board that any staff attending an official business are not to be charged admission. If you're attending just to attend with your family, that's a different situation, but if you bring them in your official business, then please pay for your spouse or your, however that is, but you can be in free, and so if you have any trouble with that, please call me directly and we will deal with that, but they were very supportive of it. So the antique tractor pull at 7 o'clock on Friday night, Saturday night, or Saturday, there's lots of activities planned as well. So it's probably the first time with the grounds being complete in their new configuration, so we're looking forward to it. Yeah. Any business arising from the closed session? No? Notice of motion? Any business? Oh, Councilor Spillis.
Just one item, I touched base with, CEO, this was an accident that occurred on Brock Road at the end of August type of thing. And it shut down, basically, event happening, the pickleball event happening at, community center. And I guess my question is, if the road's shut down, what sort of follow-up do we have with the police in terms of, increased,
Sorry, go ahead.
increased monitoring of the traffic conditions there?
So, through you, Mr. Chair, that's something that township staff could work with county staff, given it's a part of the county road network, and the OPP. I think I believe there's been 2 incidents recently, so certainly with the school year starting and school there and higher volumes of pedestrian traffic, it does warrant a discussion with both the county and the OPP to discuss additional monitoring.
Especially with the school starting, I agree. Thank you.
Maybe piggybacking on that, just curious about the crossing guard situation. Do OPP have auxiliary members that could fill in as crossing guard?
So through you, Mr. Chair, we can have that discussion to see if there are any supports or any maybe ideas that they have. That posting has been posted for quite a long time. It's a difficult one for all municipalities to fill. So we're not any different than our neighbors here, but we can have those discussions both with the OPP and with the school to see what we can do.
I guess piggybacking on that, some schools have high school kids sort of acting as interim guards. Is that a possibility?
Well, here, the high school kids are
Yeah, I
as
know
well.
that, but I mean, it's like grade
Grade
8.
eight. So as a crop, they have quite a crossing guard program.
Not for the road, though, only
The road in front of the school. I don't know how you get that program up and going, but maybe Aberfoyle look into that. We can share that resource with them, maybe.
That's a great suggestion, and as our bylaw officer has those discussions with the principal, maybe that's something we can suggest as well.
That'll be good.
It's a great opportunity for the kids, like the leadership. I've seen the kids take that job really seriously and they, yeah.
Same as the city of Guelph, kids are
Yeah.
serious.
It's, the only hesitation is that is a really
Yeah.
busy road, so.
They do it with a crossing guard in front of. Sorry,
There may be an opportunity, again, we often go to the university and the timing's right, their school has started and we often advertise at the university, sometimes that's what they're looking for. And there might be sort of a mentorship program that we could build into it that might be more enticing for some of these university students if that's what they're looking to do. We can look into all of that. Mayor Seeley has just stepped out. And all we have left is our confirmatory bylaw, if that's sort of concluded new business. Yeah,
So can you, yeah,
I can read the resolution, that the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2024-054 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the corporation of the township of Clifton, its meeting held on the 3rd day of September 2024.
I'm gonna move it for that, please. So Goida, seconded by Councilor Spillis. All in favor?
And that council hereby adjourns at 3:33 p.m.
Moved by Counselor Hurst, seconded by Counselor Sebelius. All in favor? Oh, the mayor didn't have anything else to
Good
add.
job.